Welcome to episode 20 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. We're going to talk a bit about number 7 of our New Year's resolutions. Full accountability of yourself and others. What is accountability, and why is it a necessary part of the Earth experience? We live in a world that contains people of all different levels of spiritual awareness, from kindergartners through master's degree. Given the attributes of each level, some at the lowest levels would gladly spend their days abusing, raping, and murdering. They do not possess the awareness that make these choices as horrific to them as they are to us. Their limited perspective can justify behaving in that manner. Those at the highest levels would make choices that are rooted in love and compassion for themselves and others. Everyone in the middle is actively trying each and every day to make more choices that align with the highest levels and fewer choices that are in alignment with the low levels. It's like a sliding scale with much movement back and forth as it progresses. As a collective culture, we decide what rules and laws we must enact to incentivize people to make higher level choices, and what punishments or accountability will await those who make the lower level choices. Without rules and laws, it would be complete mayhem, because those at lower levels of spiritual awareness are way more aggressive about what they want to do than are those at the higher levels, and their choices are never for the greater good. They are always to advance their own causes, which are not in alignment with a world that is operating at a higher level of spiritual awareness. People at the lower levels of spiritual awareness make choices that only take their needs into account. If there were a way for people to behave in a completely selfish way without causing harm to others or harm to the planet, we might not care. But that's not possible. Their choices are far-reaching and destructive in a way that they will have no interest in repairing. The fallout of their choices falls on the rest of the collective culture. So we, as a culture, look at the damage that is done by those at the lowest levels and try to put in place the checks and balances that would either convince them to not make the bad choice or to punish them after the fact, which may mean that they can't move freely amongst us. Or the punishment may take away something they value, such as their money or their power over others. For them, that is the first step in the reckoning that will give them the impetus to choose more wisely next time. It spurs positive growth. It's an important and vital part of our partnerships with other people to hold them accountable. And it is vital that they hold us accountable. It is always easy to hold those who we don't identify with accountable. It's much more difficult to hold those we believe in or those we love accountable. But our feelings about the person have no bearing on their need to be held accountable. You may be your chosen one's worst enemy. You may be doing something that may drag them back down the ladder of spiritual awareness, landing right back down at the bottom. You may be the worst thing that ever happened to them. Why? You mistake the role you are playing. You can admire someone and love what they produce, but you should never love them to the point that you make excuses for the things they do that are wrong. You should never be standing on the sidelines cheering as they go off the rails. Every single person on earth is subject to the laws of checks and balances. It's our saving grace. When we start to go off the rails by stepping 1 foot out of bounds, the kindness of a person pointing out to us that we are 1 foot outside may be exactly what we need to keep from leaving the path altogether. Once you point that out, the person has the right to either listen or not, but you've done your part. The worst is when the subject of adoration ends up in a ditch. which is not unusual for people who get power or fame, and their supporters are still there clapping, making excuses for what they've done or denying that they are in the ditch at all. Participating in the denial of one's situation is the least loving thing you can do. Love and/or admiration are not excuses to dismiss reality. You are not helping anyone by pretending that what is happening is not, in fact, happening. You are participating in their destruction. Surrounding yourself with people who refuse to hold you accountable will also lead to your destruction. You need someone who will tell you the truth. The phenomenon of supporting the wrong that others do happens in both personal and public ways. I've seen parents completely deny that their young child has demonstrated problematic behavior when that is pointed out to them by caregivers or teachers. They will fight to the death to defend their child against this claim. When they first receive this news, the charge may be that the child is putting his hands on kids when they don't want him to, and continues to do it despite the teacher's request to stop. The teacher is asking that the child be helped by the parents to learn the concept of keeping his hands to himself. This is a simple and ordinary request that many parents have received. It's nothing out of the ordinary. But the parents are unwilling to accept that their child is less than perfect and therefore will not join forces with the teacher to nip this in the bud. The child learns that this boundary doesn't matter and that the person who is supposed to be in authority has no authority. This problem started at a 1 and has now escalated to a 3. The same child continues to defy authority and interact inappropriately with other children. The children do what is predictable. They begin to reject the child who can't interact appropriately. That child now has a life that is more and more out of control. They have no place, they have no friends, yet their parents continue to fight on their behalf to make sure there are no consequences or redirection. The problem has now gone from a 3 to a 6. This problem child has feelings that are dark and complicated, which leads to a need for the use of intoxicants to block them out. The problem has now gone from a 6 to an 8. People focus their efforts on getting this child to stop drinking and doing drugs, but those are not the problem. They are a symptom of this child's foundation being built on sand. The choices that the child makes while under the influence create trauma and shame because everyone who alters their consciousness to a certain point is a sitting duck for the darkness. I've seen cases like this. The child is then shipped off elsewhere for someone to try to sort him out and help him move forward. It's a mess that sometimes takes a lifetime to sort out. Along the way, many other people are pulled into the drama and affected negatively. It's a life cycle that plays out all around us and begins with parents misunderstanding what love is. Many people will act as badly as they are allowed to act, plus a little more. They are screaming out that line from the movie, The Mask. Somebody stop me. Love would be listening to those who work with your child and partnering with them to help your child form into the best version of themselves. Love is holding your child up to high standards because you know they are a magnificent creature who can meet reasonable challenges, which bring with them self-esteem and stability for your child. To deny the checks and balances is to create a false world for your child that they cannot integrate into the real world. It leaves them with a complete misunderstanding of their place in the world and what they need to do to achieve what they came here to do. Running interference for those you love or admire creates the roadblock from them receiving the information they desperately need to move forward in a more positive way. You are cementing them in place. Accountability means honesty. It means upholding the agreements we have with one another to behave in a way that causes the least harm and promotes the most positive growth. You can continue to love people who are going off the rails, but withholding accountability from them is as good as shoving them off the road and into the ditch. Love yourself and everyone else enough to tell the truth and expect the same from others. Reading the news these days has become almost an act of self-abuse. We see hatred, cruelty, greed, abuse of power, murder, mayhem, and Nazis. The darkness has reached levels almost unimaginable. In some cases, the only way I can comfort myself is to remember that no one gets away with anything. Remember, we're playing the long game here. Everything that people do, both done in light and love or done in darkness and despair, will have consequences. All actions and reactions reveal where we are on our path and what we need to learn to move to a higher level. Much of what we read in the news today is the choices of people who are currently operating at a very primal level of awareness. People who are at a kindergarten level don't even know not to kill others. First and second graders are not much wiser. They may only have improved to the level where they will get someone else to kill you instead of doing it themselves, or in the interest of making money, they will kill the planet we inhabit. Know that these souls are going to have to make these choices that we would not make because we have advanced beyond that grade level. But don't assume you're better than that person. It may be that you've just already been there and done that. The difference is you've moved forward. They will too, just maybe not in this lifetime. There are many people you will see in the news who will do absolutely anything for money or power. Both are intoxicants that seem like they can fill any empty space in a person's life. They will need to learn the flip side of their actions in order to move forward. They will be given the opportunity to fill the gap in their awareness. They will have to learn that the true power position is to not need power or money to define your self-worth. Will they learn it in this lifetime? Some will. You see many stories of people who have it all and lose it all. But not all karmic lessons will be delivered in the same lifetime. One way or the other, they will have to learn it. And the deeper into the darkness they go, the harder they will have to struggle to find their way back into the light. Their deeds do not take anything away from you. They take everything away from themselves. They are creating their own struggles and do so because they think that what they are doing will remedy their existing struggles. That mistake will cost them dearly. When they leave the planet, they will be housed on the other side with souls who operate at their same level. Most people who operate at a low level enjoy the respite of interacting with people who are on higher levels. They are not fully immersed in the darkness. But accountability being what it is, on the other side, they will be with people of their own level. If you are operating at a high level, that would be heavenly. If you are operating at a low level, I assume that would be a bit like hell. This is not a punishment. It's just the natural sorting into your earned classroom. You will just go to the place where your soul is the most comfortable. By all means, protect yourself from those who are operating at a low level. That is what your intuition and powers of discernment are for. It does not make you a good person to allow them to do their evil deeds in your life. That makes you complicit. Protect yourself raise the level of your game, and be the example of how to do better. Don't waste any of your precious time obsessing about how and when their lessons will be delivered. Use that time to make sure you aren't housed with them on the other side. I was doing some post-production work on a video about climate change. The video began with a snippet that was the lighting of a match and then the planet Earth being set on fire. The first time I saw it, the imagery really affected me, but then they used the same image as chapter headings, meaning it was seen about a half a dozen times in each 1-hour video. After a few times of seeing this image, it had no power over me. I didn't feel any reaction whatsoever. Somehow, I got used to seeing the planet on fire. These are the times we live in. Our brains are assaulted daily, hourly, with new horrific imagery. The sheer volume of terrible things has reached a level that our brains are not used to. So, what does our brain do? It adapts and stops reacting. This is very dangerous for all of us. We may adapt our way to complete destruction. Our opposition in changing this to a planet that is at a higher level of spiritual awareness are those who are currently trying to convince us that there's nothing to see here. The people and institutions that want to convince you to look the other way or to accept that everyone is void of integrity and no one really has a moral compass are your opposition. The minute you begin to see it their way, you begin the process of being dragged backwards. We're not having that. We will continue to attach to the ideals of honesty, integrity, empathy, equality, respect for the earth, the creation, a willingness to learn and grow, and continued movement towards feeling nothing but love and respect for ourselves and others. So what is the solution? We need to know what is going on, but we need to consume it in a way that doesn't desensitize us. We need to spend more time engaged in the beautiful, love-filled parts of our lives, and then be mad as hell when we do check in on what's going on. We need to know what's happening. Ignoring it all is also a path to destruction. But we need to be smart. We need to see what is happening, do the part that we can in either expressing our disgust to our representatives, finding a way to assist the efforts of others, making sure we vote, and offering support for others to vote. We can't let this wear us down. We can't afford to become numb. We are creating the world we want day after day through our thoughts and choices. Don't let the daily barrage of the darkness knock you off your path. We will win in the end, but it's not going to be easy. Nothing important ever is. Thank you for listening to Rebirth Revolution. I'm so grateful that you do. We have new listeners in France, Canada, Ukraine, Massachusetts, and Virginia. That's a wild mix. Welcome to all. It's good to know we are all in this together. It would be great if you could tell everyone you know about us if you think they might be interested in this sort of content. Let's spread the word. We can be found everywhere podcasts exist and on YouTube. Let us know the questions that pop up from listening. Email us at rebirthrev@gmail.com or leave a comment on rebirthrevolution.com. Until next week, be open, be aware, watch for clues, and consider having a hard conversation. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Have a joyful week.